Hello, friends. Welcome into Seattle Seahawks Today. I am your host, Tom Downey, here to break down what's going on around the Seahawks as NFL free agency and the NFL draft get closer and closer here. On today's show, we're going to kick things off with some offensive line talk. Are the Seahawks done making moves at that particular spot? Now, as of right now, Seattle has 5 starting caliber options. They can get by with what they have on the offensive line. Jay Keeps of ESPN 710 in Seattle says, well, maybe they're not done looking for upgrades yet. And I am inclined to agree with that if the right opportunity ends up presenting itself. Now, free agency, those options aren't great. Draft, as we'll get to later, might be a better path for the Seahawks to pursue. But I do think if your goal, which should be the goal, of course, is to keep Russell Wilson happy, well, making sure you keep Wilson happy and healthy behind a better offensive line certainly makes sense. So where things sit right now, Dwayne Brown, Brandon Shell, you're fine at tackle, probably want a better long-term option at one, if not both of those spots, but that's a lesser priority. Guard, Gabe Jackson, Damian Lewis, I think you can start those guys and feel good about it. Center, though, is the one area where you're like, maybe you could find a better option as a starting caliber player. Where things get tricky, though, is in terms of free agency, who's out there? Well, you got Austin Ryder. He could start at center. I was going to put Austin Blythe on here. I thought the Seahawks might go get him, given the familiarity with Shane Waldron, the former Rams offensive line impact coach there. But he went to the Chiefs, so Ryder's available. Guards, James Carpenter, Lane Taylor. Nick Easton can give you some center, probably a decent backup option. Trey Turner was once good, not so good this past year. The next best center is Joe Looney of the Cowboys? Yeah, it's not a great group there, and that's why they chose to bring back Posick on a one-year, $3 million deal. So in an ideal world, I think the answer to this next question is yes. The Seahawks should go get another starting caliber offensive line. But will they? Let me know what you guys are thinking here in the comment section. This question is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So we get the ad break here on YouTube. Scroll on down and get your votes in. Type 1 for yes or 0 for no. All right, as promised, some more of the draft side of this, right? How about taking Quinn Meinerz, the interior offensive lineman out of Wisconsin Whitewater? Now, he was mocked to Seattle by Sports Illustrated, their Fan Nation Maven, whatever it is these days, with Corbin Smith. I like Meinerz quite a bit, and he impressed at both guard and center against better competition at the Senior Bowl after he did not play in 2020. Meinerz at that event went from this guy might get drafted like round 6, maybe round 7, to I think he's going top 75. So if you want Meinerz, you got to take him in round 2 or maybe trade down on top of that. Now, that was Sports Illustrated mock draft, and if you want a mock draft from yours truly here, help me out and like this video. Look, Seattle doesn't have very much in the way of draft capital, so the interest from what we've seen view-wise has been kind of iffy. So if you want one, let the bosses know and like today's video. Now, Meinerz can help you in a couple of different spots. He could be a potential long-term left guard, replace Gabe Jackson. I think he could start over Ethan Posick at center, but because Seattle took care of the immediate need at left guard and at center, at least for this upcoming season, that means Seattle does not have to draft somebody in round 2. Or they could even trade down, acquire extra draft capital, and still take someone late round 2 or more likely early round 3. So because of that, there are various draft options for the Seahawks to pursue beyond just Quinn Meinerz. That's not the only path they have to look at. But the interior of the offensive line, at least my viewpoint, my assumption, my thought process here, is that's the route the Seahawks are going to pursue. They will look for a guard. They will look for a center. They will look somewhere in that direction in terms of finding an interior offensive lineman who could potentially start Ethan Posick or at least make a significant impact early. So 5 other names that are worth mentioning here, right? Landon Dickerson is the dream pick for me. He only falls there if there are medical concerns. I don't think he does anyway. Other centers are Creed Humphrey, Josh Myers. Humphrey tested really well at his pro day. Not that the pro days aren't juiced, but still, that's beside the point. And then 2 guards who both, I think, kind of fit more of the Pete Carroll style of good-time maulers, Wyatt Davis and Trey Smith. So assuming the Seahawks do not trade down from their second-round pick, if they're staying there and are picking at the back end of round 2, who do you guys want the Seahawks to draft with that first pick? I know it's difficult to figure it out because there's so much that could go on. It's tough to actually identify who is likely, but it's not like you have a top 5 pick, right? But make your best guess for me. Who do you want the Seahawks to draft in the comments section? Now, while you guys are down there, check out this link in the description or in the comments. chatsports.com/12combo. We've hooked you guys up with a special deal from our friends over at Fanatics. This t-shirt hat combo pack is 50% off. It's under $30. I love that hurt. The gray and the green, it works so well for the Seahawks. Plus, you get a hat as well. It's really tough to find officially licensed NFL gear at that cost. 2 items for under $30 is one of the better deals these days. Chatsports.com/12combo. Go get yours today. These do tend to sell out rather quickly. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball here for our next 2 stories, beginning with LJ Collier. Now, he is in line for more defensive tackle reps in light of the moves that Seattle has chosen to make. Namely, Jarran Reed was released. He is now with the Chiefs. Carlos Dunlap, Benson Mayowa come back on deals. Kerry Hyder ends up signing as well. And those 3 are in all likely at least 3 of your top 4 or so key guys at the defensive end position. Now, Collier has played defensive tackle in the past. In fact, he actually played about a third of his snaps at defensive tackle last year. And for the time being, I'm going to put him as a starter on the defensive line. Now, Al Woods might be more of a first down starter along with Poona Ford, and you could even still have LJ Collier be a defensive end, but on passing downs, something like this makes more sense. Dunlap and Mayowa, Darrell Taylor will rotate in, Hyder will rotate in as well. Collier, I think for the majority of his reps, should, and I think will be, a defensive tackle. And frankly, I think that's his better fit anyway. I wanted him to play defensive tackle coming out of TCU. His first year, no way around it. He was bad. Made next to no impact, a grand total of 3 tackles. This past year, including several coming at very opportune times, he made some plays. Ended up with 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. I think an interior defensive line focused role, especially on passing downs, is going to be in the best interest for LJ Collier. In fact, he now looks like a potential breakout candidate, at least for me, for the Seahawks. So make your predictions right now in the comments section. How many sacks do you believe LJ Collier will put together in 2021? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And while you're down there, again, double check, make sure you guys are subscribed. All you sweet Seahawks fans out there, if you want to stay in the know with videos almost every single day with what's going on around Seattle, hit that big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on anything that happens for the Seahawks this offseason and, of course, in the next season as well. Let's talk KJ Wright now, the latest on him, as I'm down to bring him back. I don't know if he's going to, though. So Wright, again, recapping previously what had been said, would not take a hometown discount, but yes, he wants to stay in Seattle. Meanwhile, KJ Wright currently is out here publicly flirting with the Dallas Cowboys, saying, oh, they'd be a dream team of mine, and there are a lot of leaks from Dallas of, oh, KJ Wright has had contract talks with them, and it all feels like, to me, that KJ Wright is trying to find a destination because the market, which surprises me too, has not been what KJ Wright was hoping or looking for from that perspective. So I think that's a very real possibility that if the market's poor, I think KJ Wright could come back to Seattle. Because if the money is the same between the Cowboys and Seattle, and both those teams do not like to spend big money in free agency, I think a reunion just could end up being the simplest path there in the end for those two sides. So I'm down to bring back KJ Wright if he's cheap. And depth is an area of need for Seattle, where there's Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks. Those two will play most of your snaps. Limited depth beyond that, though. If Wright is affordable, you always want to try and bring back those guys. If he is demanding big-time money and big-time snaps, then maybe a reunion does not make the most sense. But because KJ Wright is sitting here now, almost at the end of March, still unsigned, and I'm surprised by that, I think the longer he goes without getting a deal from somebody, the more likely it is he might actually return to Seattle if that's truly what he wants in the end.